Welcome to the Coffee Journeys show, hosted by me, Piotr Zagorowski, author of the Coffee Journeys blog. In this show, I'll be sharing my journey from being a technical person to a leader and discussing topics such as leadership, technology, and intentional living. I'll be sharing my unique perspective and insights and offering guidance on how to develop the skills and mindset needed to succeed in today's world. Whether you're an aspiring leader, a technology enthusiast, or simply looking to learn more about the world around you, this podcast is for you. So, join me for the engaging and thought-provoking conversations on leadership, technology, and intentional living on the Coffee Journeys show. Some time ago, I wrote about the lessons we can learn from our kids and how quickly they grow. I have recently been pondering on this topic as I have had to learn to negotiate with kids more effectively. Do it because I say so is never a good idea. Fortunately, there are plenty of resources we can learn from. One of them is a book written by a former FBI hostage negotiator. And yes, you heard it right. We can implement the techniques used in negotiation with kidnappers and apply them to our families and leadership at work. Conflict. It is an unavoidable experience when raising children. Similarly, in work environment, if we truly value diverse thoughts, cultures, and approaches, conflict will eventually arise. And it is natural to feel inclined to take a side and quickly resolve the conflict or to avoid it altogether. However, neither of these approaches are ideal in the long term. I recently was able to implement some of the lessons I learned after reading the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Chris is a former FBI hostage negotiator and the founder and CEO of the Black Swan Group, a consultancy that specializes in negotiating and conflict resolution. He's a sought-after speaker and the author of several books. I'm going to share my notes that I took after reading this book, and I hope you'll find it useful. One of the main lessons of the book is importance of empathy in negotiation. Chris argues that the key to success negotiation is understanding the other person's perspective to find common ground. By showing empathy and actively listening, you can build trust and establish a rapport with the other person, which can lead to a mutual beneficial outcome. It goes hand to hand with some other key lessons from the book to never assume that the other person is rational. In this case of the hostage taker, Voss has to understand the emotional state in the individual and use empathy to connect with him and find a solution. Tactical empathy is the ability to use empathy in a strategic way to get the other person to do what you want. Chris explains that tactical empathy is not about manipulation, though, but about finding a mutually beneficial outcome. By using tactical empathy, you can get the other person to see things from your perspective and find a solution that works for both of you. Another tool that I started using more intentionally is mirroring and labeling. Chris explains that labeling is a technique where you name the other person's emotions or thoughts in order to gain their trust and make them feel understood. By labeling, you can also get the other person to open up and reveal more information, which can help you better understand their perspective and find a solution. The best way to help someone think is to encourage them to reflect on what they are saying. Instead of critiquing the incorrect ideas, try repeating back the last few words of their last sentences. Avoid sounding unnatural or disapproving. The goal here is not to shame them or making them feel bad about their thought process, but to keep the conversation going and help them see their own thinking more clearly. In doing so, you can help them assess whether they are making good decisions on their own. Some examples of labeling language. It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like. The usual conflict scenario is the escalation when people raise their voices. One side starts it and the other side is matching it and escalate it even more. Chris proposes to use a positive, playful voice most of the time. It will keep kids or your employees feel comfortable and encouraged. When you get anxious and upset, use the late night FM DJ voice, slow, deep, and calm. Humans naturally copy the energy of the other people they are around. As a result, you can shape the conversation by how you say what you say. Voss argues that the way in which we communicate, we can have a significant impact on the outcome of the negotiation. By establishing a positive and collaborative tone, you can cultivate a sense of cooperation and trust, ultimately leading to more favorable result. On the other hand, appearing aggressive and confrontational can lead to tension and cause the other party to become defensive, thereby making it more challenging to come to an agreement. Calibrated questions are open-ended questions that are designed to get the other person to reveal more information and open up. Chris explains that calibrated questions can be a powerful tool in a negotiation because they can help you better understand the other person's perspective and find a solution that works for both of you. Some examples of calibrated questions. What is the challenge you face right now? What about this is important to you? How can I help you to make better for us? How would you like me to proceed? What is that brought us into this situation? How can we solve this problem? What's the objective here? What are we trying to accomplish here? How am I supposed to do it? The purpose of those carefully crafted questions is to put the other side to work, keep their brain occupied, and help to solve your problems. Chris uses calibrated questions to uncover the hostage taker's motivations and ultimately come to a resolution. We can use them to help the other person to come up with some ideas that we both will mutually agree and they will be beneficial to us. Another key lesson from the book is the power of silence. Chris shares how, as a negotiator, he discovered that the most effective way to prompt the other person to disclose crucial information was to ask a question and then stay silent. This technique, known as the power of the pause, allows the other person to think about their response and often leads them to reveal more than they would have otherwise. Chris found that by staying quiet and allowing the other person to speak, was able to gain valuable information and create a sense of trust. And the final lesson I would like to emphasize here is never make threats or ultimatums. In the negotiation, Chris successfully resolved the situation without resorting to threats which could have escalated the situation. doing as I say will never work. Or it will work, but in very, very short period of time. If you use authority at work, people will leave your company or your team. If you use your authority as a parent, kids will learn how to disobey you in more sophisticated ways. You may achieve what you want in short terms, but you will lose big time in a long term. In terms of implementation, Never Split the Difference offers great lessons for leadership. By understanding the other person's perspective and using empathy, we, leaders, can effectively negotiate with our teams or team members and reach mutually beneficial agreement. The principles from the book can also apply to the realm of parenting. When you face some challenges or challenging situations with your kid, employing empathy and focusing on the children's interests can lead to a solution without resorting to threats and ultimatums. So what have we learned? Empathy is crucial in building trust and rapport in negotiations. The power of silence can be effective in gaining the other persons to reveal important information. It is important to establish a BATNA, best alternative to negotiated agreement, before entering negotiation. Using the yes ladder technique can help more the other person towards agreement with your position. Negotiation should be viewed as problem-solving exercise rather than a competition.
And this is all I have for you today. I value feedback a lot. That's why I ask you to review my podcast in your favorite podcasting platform and give it as many stars as you think it deserves. By doing so, this podcast is going to be more visible and I can reach more people to provide value. And before you go, if you would like to join the community of people who are determined to help each other and grow together, join my newsletter at coffeejourneys.blog/newsletter. Thanks for tuning in today, and until next time, have a great